Hello, I'm Mark Coughlin. Welcome to REVA's Electrifying News, December 2025 edition. With me, as always, my other two co-hosts. We have Mr. Ian Graham joining us from downtown Kitchener. How you doing today, sir?
I feel like I'm joining you from the Arctic. And yeah, and
A little
dealing
bit
with
under
the
the weather, are we,
and a
Ian?
little under the weather. Exactly. Yes, the voice is even more gravelly.
Well,
I'm gonna do a mean Leonard Cohen on Sunday night's concert.
hope you feel better soon.
Yeah.
Also with us, as per usual, Mr. Eric Stevens joining us from the Listowel area. How are you doing today, Eric?
Trying to keep it so I'm not completely buried in snow. We've gotten probably over 100 centimeters of snow in Listowel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
I've already got 6 foot snow drifts at the end of my driveway right now.
oh, Eric is in the snow belt and he's
Yeah,
getting it all.
yeah, and it's not even winter yet officially. So yeah,
So you're breaking out all the heaters you can to melt the snow to have more room to throw the new snow on top.
well, kinda, yeah,
Either that or he's gonna start handing out ski passes for the hills that he's gonna
yeah, that's true. Gonna need snowshoes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible news. Well, let's see if we can get through it tonight. We've got a bunch of news stories we wanted to tackle tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Ian, who's going to get the deck loaded and started.
All right, so here we go. December 2025 of REVA Electrifying News. Cough, cough. All right. So the first story that we're going to talk a little bit about, and this is always an interesting one because we see it in the forums, the debate about, oh, you need a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle because they have no range anxiety and they're still okay. Well, the study is now showing that they aren't actually quite as good as everyone might make them out to be. One of the interesting things about this, and I personally know this from just talking to some people who have plug-in hybrids, is the utility factor. In other words, of using electric versus gas. How many times have people not plugged the car in? Even though they had the ability to plug it in, they didn't plug it in. So they were still a hybrid, but not full electric. It was sort of a back and forth. And that was a high number on that. And the thing is, they're also finding that this is more of a diversion for the road to zero emissions, and that the models registered in 2023 are nearly 5 times the official emissions of what is being told to us. But when they actually do the studies, there's actually quite a bit of issues that way. And one of the things that they were showing is that when they're driven in electric mode, they still are giving off X amount of emissions because the electric motors are not having, they're insufficient power and the combustion engine needs to kick in. Now, I think this depends on which plug-in hybrid that you're dealing with because all of us, we've had Volts. We have a Volt in our family, and we love that 45-day engine maintenance thing that comes on. Just means that, hey, we haven't turned the gas engine on for that many days. But one of the problems, of course, we've got this extra cold weather, and the car in most cases usually will be driving with the gas motor just to kind of keep things going. I can't remember what the negative temperature has to be, -12, I think. I know you can set it.
Minus 10 was the
Yeah,
coldest it could be.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it depends on the vintage of the Volt too. The 2019 actually they had another setting. I think it was actually even lower than that. So
yeah. So, but it's funny because my own Volt I got in 2015, and then I sold it in 2018, got the Model 3, and the biggest complaint, that was I just wanted more electric range. You get so far, and it was just like, oh. So, it just became frustrating that way. I'm amazed how many people I still hear say like, "Oh, this is the best way to go still because you have no range anxiety." And I'm kind of like, there's so many people now who've driven all over the map, like the world. So, but
yeah,
anyways, it's an interesting study, and a lot of it, of course, this is based a lot more in Europe, this study, but it applies over here as well.
yeah. You get into these challenges where companies, people get a plug-in hybrid vehicle as a company vehicle, and companies are used to reimbursing fuel and gasoline. But the problem is now these people plug in at home. How do they disseminate what is their electrical charge at home? for these types of things. So people are like, well, the company's not compensating me for electricity, but they're compensating me for gas, so I'm just not going to plug it in. So you get some of those people that do that. And then there's the other challenges of plug-in hybrid vehicles. A lot of them, basically it is a combustion vehicle. You still have all the powertrain components, a gas engine, gas tank, exhaust system, power split transmission type device in these vehicles. And then you're adding electric motors and a battery and inverter and all that stuff on top of that. So it's two powertrains in one. And that has some emissions implications even in itself in its manufacturing and its life cycle emissions as well. So, you combine those and, plug-in hybrids are not the ideal solution. Now, that being said, all of us were plug-in hybrid drivers, and that was our gateway drug to going full electric.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you talk about, Ian, these people out there that say, oh, plug-in hybrids are the way to go. These are people who have never driven electric.
Yeah.
So the thing is, for them, that range anxiety is a perception that's in their mind, but they haven't lived it, so they don't know the reality.
Yeah, Eric, those are excellent points. I was going to bring up that us being Volt owners in the past, we had the ability to go through this cycle ourselves and understand what range anxiety really was and why we got the Volt initially instead of, say, a Nissan Leaf, which was also available when we bought our cars. So we got to live both sides of the equation, and we quickly discovered that we wanted more electric range, and we moved. But as Eric mentioned, it's hard to tell someone that's never driven an electric vehicle ever that they need to be or not need to be concerned with range anxiety. And I realize in the years that I have moved over to a full electric, certainly the charging infrastructure has gotten so much better. But what I really didn't understand was that if you have a driveway or a garage and you can plug your electric vehicle in nightly, you have really no concerns because you're going to get 500 kilometers of range on a full tank of electrons, and you don't really require that extra gasoline motor as a backup. But you couldn't tell me that back in 2014.
Hmm. And that was
Yeah.
yeah, that was something too. Like the minute that I found out that the Tesla superchargers were not only Parry Sound and Sudbury, but then Espanola, then it was like it was a no-brainer. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I have no problems to get where I need to, like up north there.
Yeah, and that's the big difference between, 10 years ago and today is the charging infrastructure is, you know, many orders of magnitude better. And EVs have also gotten so much better in that time frame as well, too.
Yeah.
Back then EVs had 200 kilometers of range. Now today it's easy to find them that are well over 500. So
Yeah,
So, like
exactly.
this article says, it's kind of a backward step because things have progressed in the last 10 years that makes an electric vehicle far more, has the ability to operate in everyone's wheelhouse than what it had back, 10, 11 years ago. So it's changed that way.
Hmm.
But if you're going to have a hard time convincing some people that have never had any experience with this, it's all new to them and they may just view this as an insurance package that they could pick up in their vehicle as opposed to not have it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on from that, um, Ontario's got some interesting news.
Exactly. This is this is good news for sure. We've been hearing a lot of mediocre, bad news when it comes to new investment in Ontario recently. But this is a brand new graphene plant that's going to be placed, guess where, in St. Thomas, Ontario.
Hmm.
So we talked about this previously as manufacturers start to set up lines and factories throughout Ontario, it would drive more investment in those communities. And this is a perfect example of that. We've got a company that has decided that they want to open a new North American facility and to create the graphene, synthetic graphene. And they thought the best place to put it would be, of course, connected or close to one of their main customers. So this is the VW plant being built this is going hand in hand with that, that they've now got a supplier that wants to set up shop and can provide up to 1,000 jobs to Ontario employees by making synthetic graphite and opening up this new supply that currently doesn't exist in North America. So this is something that's going to again continue to roll along and attract others. And with the investment that we do have already in Ontario, I can see that we'll get a few more of these good news stories of other suppliers that decide to set up shop in Ontario as well.
Yeah, this is a major thing for a lot of reasons because graphene's used in a lot of things, not just in the batteries, but even in some of the power electronics and many other things as well too. And even outside of the electric vehicle industry, it's used in quite a few different things as well. And most of the world's graphene today comes from China. So strategically, this has some major implications as well too for North America and even Europe. So a lot of the European companies likely will be sourcing graphene from this facility as well too eventually. So I mean, this is big deal. This is really good to see.
Hmm. And it inspired me to write the song Graphene, 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 Graphene. Oh man, because my voice is just so great tonight. Um, from what I understand too, this is also, we're having this in our backyard is also one less thing that we're dealing with on the Chinese aspect of this as well. And, we're bringing this close to home. And I don't think any of us are going to say having another, 300 people in production and eventually another 1,000 jobs. And I think that's just going to keep growing from there. I like the fact too that we're not just talking about electric vehicles. It is getting into other aspects of what this can be used for. And if those markets keep opening up even that much more in terms of products where this can be used, this is going to be excellent for Ontario for sure. And I think for Canada in general.
Yep.
All right. This is an interesting, great story.
Yeah, so the Ontario Energy Board is introducing a new rate for public charging. And now this is kind of interesting because right now today, when you install an electric vehicle charger, basically the Ontario Energy Board and these commercial sites or these public sites, they get billed the same as, say, an industry that's plugging into the grid today. So when an industry plugs into the grid, they get billed at a certain kilowatt hour rate, but the duty cycle is different. So many of these businesses are using power for most of the day. And so many people are saying that the way that public charging is being billed isn't the same because the duty cycle, EVs are not constantly charging at these sites. And in fact, in order to get this reduced rate, the duty cycle for these chargers have to be less than 20%. So what that means is that more remote sites or sites where it might be more difficult to become economically viable, now they will get a reduced rate to plug in for these because now they're not going to be using the grid as much on a regular basis as well too. So they're not going to get billed at the same rate. So this opens up the viability for charging stations in areas where it might have been more difficult. Traditionally, a lot of companies have been building charging stations, say in the Greater Toronto area or places where they're going to have higher utilization. But now, if you're looking to put a DC fast charger, say in Espanola, you're going to want a reduced charging rate for something like that to make that charging site a little bit more economically viable.
Hmm.
So that's going to help the people that are installing new chargers, where they'll know that yes, you're not going to get the same utilization, so you're not getting as many customers around the clock. But since that is the case, you get a reduction in rates that you have to pay for the juice that's flowing into that station.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is a really amazing thing to see because I think was brought up about a year or two ago where I was sort of frustrated where you'd see these, 16 bay charging stations here, another 8 over there. And it's like, can we not get even in just some of the, say, towns of 2 to 5,000 people to get even like 4 stations in? And this program, I think, will definitely help with something along that lines. Like they're not going to need 8 bays or more. And if this helps them to cost effectively get something in, that's going to be great. You mentioned Espanola. I'm looking at this going like, hello, Manitoulin, come on, like, and Manitoulin, actually, funny enough, they are getting a fast charger now put in, I just saw. But it's still, they got to expand it out. So hopefully this might be one of those things that will help with do that.
Mhm.
All right. So speaking of charging stations, this one I really like this story. The biggest thing, it's a portable EV charger that basically they can tap right into the lines. It could take days, maybe a week or more. It depends, I think, on what it is. But especially in emergency situations, if they're dealing with, electrified emergency vehicles, or just for people who, in emergency situations, if there's a disaster area or something like this is really going to help them with charging the vehicles, maybe to leave the zone, or just to, maybe the power is completely out. And this is a great place they can charge. And then, we've been talking a lot about vehicle to home technology, and they can like get, the car charged up, go back and power the house again. But this is being done with Flow and BC Hydro. And, it can be transported on a flatbed truck and placed on a site with a crane. So it reminds me of like how many times I see Home Hardware with a flatbed truck full of drywall and a crane that then lifts all the drywall out. It's kind of like that, I think, just on a bigger level. And, it's an opportunity to definitely help, I think, especially in the emergency situations. And we're seeing that now with BC with the floods happening right there right now.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And this has a few other advantages that I've seen as well too. One of the things that this does is it does speed things up, because now you can have the transformer and the chargers, and everything is kind of all set up in a single package that's the same every time.
Mhm.
So basically, now you can have sort of this quasi partially certified component basically that goes into a site, and then it really speeds up the regulatory approvals and the permitting process. It streamlines that and simplifies that. So that's why they can get these set up, and sometimes get this set up in days, where versus other charging sites where every site is a little bit different, the layout's a little bit different. And because the layout's a little bit different, now you have to submit special paperwork and go through the whole permitting process and approvals for that. And that process can sometimes take months to do. How many chargers have we seen that have been completely built and have just sat around for months, just waiting for the approvals to go through and the green light to flip the switch? I mean, how long did it take the superchargers at the Sunrise Center in Kitchener to get up
Exactly.
online,
Yeah, and Guelph comes to
So
mind right now.
Yeah.
yeah. So having this is again a great idea, and I think it's even a great idea for again rural charging stations or areas where you're out a little bit too, and you've got place to put these. This is maybe a good way to grow infrastructure quickly in a number of places.
Hmm.
Yeah, having these pedestals standardized so that the plumbing underneath them is uniformed, and that there's less connections to it because you're not having to wire, up the two stations on the left and right of the transformer. All you have to do is just plop it in place, hook up the major connection to the middle, and then you're done. So you could certainly let the site know ahead of time, here's a schematic. This is where you have to pull in the power. These are the leads that we need to have. And then once you have that, let us know, and we will ship you a unit overnight. And then they could put it together in a much quicker way than as you mentioned before, where they build everything separate and then wait for the approval process to work its magic.
Mm. Yeah. How big are
Yeah, and
the,
and a lot of this is built probably in a factory or facility.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. How big are the nuts that they got to do from the main line to the connectors? It's got to be huge and turn those things on.
Well, this will be medium voltage from the lines there, so this will be like high voltage. So the nuts won't have to be terribly big, and just
There you
good
go.
isolation for the voltage. So
They'll be
Nice.
hot.
Yeah, yeah. No kidding. Well, anyways, it just, it's the one thing too I like about this is that, there's more people and corporations and even in this case government like I think as well, but there's thinking outside of the box. They're getting some pretty smart people and saying, "Hey, what if we have this ability already from this, we can do that." And this is a perfect example of it.
yeah, and we've been saying that for years. The early days of charging infrastructure, there's always going to be issues, there's going to be mistakes, there's reliability issues and stuff like that. But we're learning and evolving, and it's
Yeah.
happening fairly quickly.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so
And
it's just getting better.
yeah. All right. I love this. Free EV charger and money for charging at home.
Exactly. We came across this, actually, Eric pointed this out to us earlier in the week, and I thought it
Mhm.
would be a good thing to mention to our members out there that Switch, which is a charging group that started in Ontario and has gone nationwide, has teamed up with the federal government and put together a program that can benefit EV owners right here in our region or anywhere across the country for that fact. And what the program is that the federal government is offering a discount to EV owners to charge, and they want to monitor how much energy is used by those EV owners in order to provide a rebate to them. So Switch decided that, well, we can help with that by putting out special charge units that collect the information of how many electrons are used at each individual house. It can be that information can be sent to us via the internet, and we can collect that and submit it to the government as a whole, and then divide the checkup amongst the different people that own those chargers when the government sends the rebate out. So they've got this great little deal where you can get a free charger. You have to put a deposit down until you reach a certain threshold, which is going to probably take somewhere between 3 and 5 months. But after that point, you get your deposit back on that level two charger. And then as you charge your vehicle, you're going to receive 3 cents per kilowatt back as a rebate. So over time, Switch will just direct deposit into your account the amount that corresponds to your 3 cents per kilowatt. And once you reach the threshold of, I believe, 1,500 kilowatt hours, you will get your deposit money sent back to you as well. So really, you have to pay a $30, I believe, shipping charge to get the unit sent to you. And then you pay a $300 deposit. And then after that, once you reach that threshold, you get the $300 back. And all along, you also receive that 3 cents per kilowatt. So if you're charging any fair amount, this could be a great deal for you. And you receive an L2 charger. It's yours to keep. You don't never have to return it. And all you need is to have internet in your garage or wherever you set up the charger so that it can communicate with the internet and send Switch the information about how much charging is occurring on your particular charger. So we'll put a link below that you can go and read about it and sign up for the account if you would like. But when we first read about this, I was kind of skeptical, but after going in through the details and seeing a few videos about it, it seems like it's a great service for some EV owners.
Yeah, I think it's a good program for learning and getting data. Encourages people to potentially get on board and collect that data. So that information could be used for all sorts of things. We keep talking about EVs being used for grid tied management and stuff like that. And that data could be used for all sorts of different applications. So that'll be pretty interesting. Another note I just wanted to add into this too. They talk about how they offer a NEMA 1450 and a hardwire model. Their NEMA 1450 requires a 50 amp circuit because it's a 40 amp EVSE. and their hardwire model requires a 60 amp circuit, because it's a 48 amp EVSE as well too. But they are investigating having other amperages, or having a level 2 EVSE that is capable of adjusting its amperage as well too in the future. But not at this point, they don't.
Hmm. It's funny this week, Eric, you sent me the this article, and then that same morning, a friend sent me a Toronto Star article of a guy talking about doing this program, and then I think the same day or the next day, CBC What on Earth is a newsletter I subscribe to, and they talked about the program. So, you know what? Congrats to Switch. You know, this is great publicity for them, and this company, they've been doing a lot to try and help with the whole charging and everything on this. So it's really good to hear on this. We've got two chargers at our place, and part of me is kind of like, well, the one charger is, you know, just level 2, but it's on a very low level. And what if we upgrade and go to this methodology, you know, and why not? So it's I think it's a good program, and you know, I can see where people who especially commute quite a bit, maybe do a lot with sales, this is just one more reason for them to you know, do this and save even more money, especially if they put the high mileage on with their cars and stuff.
Yeah,
So
like we said with electric vehicles, the more you drive, the more you save, and this that works for this program as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So this is interesting. In Brantford, am I correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brantford and East Gwillimbury as well
East
too.
Gwillimbury, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a new company, Argo, relatively new company, Argo, and they're running these sort of smaller commuter buses. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to solve the last mile issue. So the issue is, you know, oftentimes many municipalities are putting in public transit, but you might not live right next to a light rail station. You might not live right next to a bus station. And you know, you might have to walk a couple of blocks to get to the closest station or something like that, or a closest stop to do that. Well, what this is planning to do is this: you have an app on your phone, and basically you can call the bus to a what they call a smart stop, which is supposed to be a little bit closer, and it takes you to wherever you need to be for your destination. It's designed to tie into local public transit, so that if you need to get to a destination, it'll help fill those gaps in the transit system. And they're running electric mobility buses, and they apparently have some sort of algorithm that calculates the most efficient way to go pick people up. So if a bunch of people call for it in an area, the bus will plan its own routes, basically pick those people up and take them to the most efficient way to get to their destinations. And that incorporates and ties into the local transit as well, to the local bus networks or light rail or other transit options that are available as well too. And Argo is accepting, you know, in this case, Brampton and East Gwillimbury, they both use the Presto system today, and this accepts the Presto system. So you get on board, you pay, and then you're in the network basically, and you're operating. So it's basically there to help fill in some of the missing gaps in transit and mobility right now. And I thought this was a pretty innovative and pretty neat little system.
Mhm.
I can see this being a bonus for maybe a little bit more rural of an area that is on the outskirts of a bigger city, because you could have this feed into the existing transit system in the larger city. So dropping you off at a bus stop or an LRT stop that is you know, in the larger city, but it gets you to your rural place that may be, you know, 4 or 5 kilometers outside of the existing transit loop.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, or even if you're in a place like North Waterloo and you're trying to get to an LRT station, and this will help get you there quickly. Yeah.
And that was kind of my comment that I was going to make is like with LRT, how many people did we hear like, yeah, but how do I get to the LRT? I live out in this remote area of Kitchener or Waterloo, etc. And so this would be, you know, that little in between that they need. I think it's a great little system that they got that way. And just adds, you know, an extra part of the route to help people get to where they need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Finally, the Vatican is the first 100% solar country. If you didn't know, the Vatican's a country.
Yes. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So the Vatican, Just outside of Rome, actually, the Vatican has a space of, I believe it was about 100 acres of land, basically, that's just outside of Rome. And basically, what they've decided to do is they've decided to put in what they call agrivoltaics. And that's basically combining solar panels with agricultural land. And there's actually a lot of studies out there now today that with certain types of crops or certain types of, even cattle farming and grazing and stuff like that, that combining solar panels with certain crops that like semi sun or partial shade, they're finding that combination is working really good to both generate power and improve crop yields as well too. And there's actually, I mean, I've even heard some stories in the US and Colorado where some farmers have said this has saved their farm. It's interesting. And to see that, and the Vatican now basically is generating the equivalent of 100% of their power from this system.
Wow.
And what's interesting here is they even cited that there was a Canadian experiment that showed that farmers could increase their strawberry yield by 18% by having that shade of solar panels compared to fields that are wide open. So even here in Canada, it's been a proven fact.
Yeah. I plan next spring to start doing a green roof with strawberries underneath my panels, and I expect 18% plus more. But it's interesting you mentioned with Colorado and how you say like, some of the farmers have said it's actually saved their farms because, how much better are their crops now on this aspect. And of course, it's interesting because, we just heard this week about farmers having like $55 billion in debt. And then Trump's turning around saying, well, oh, geez, sorry, well, here's $12 billion, and I'm sure he's not going to like to hear about now we got solar panels that actually are helping to save farmers' farms.
Mhm.
But, again, it's like, uh, I've always sort of had a strong belief, like if you want to learn things right, just look at nature. And this is kind of a perfect example. Like, we're working with nature on multiple levels with our energy, with our food. I'm looking at a country like Spain is, become so huge in renewables now too. I can see that they're going to start doing something similar this way as well. Scotland, maybe not so much. They got too much wind there. Everything just blows away. Maybe the sheep will stay, But I mean, I think for Canadians, farmers as well, we're talking about strawberries, but I've been reading too, like broccoli, and other, like Eric, you mentioned, there's a lot of other studies that's showing some of these plants are just thriving, and this is great because, you know what, we all love to eat. And if we have good food that's, high quality and it's because of this and we're getting clean energy, like it's just a win-win overall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So there is our REVA news for December 2025, the cough cough hack edition.
Ian, you wanted to mention a point about electric vehicles in Canada.
Yeah, so we had some great news. I saw lots of reports about this, and Canada now is 1 million electric vehicles on the road, and which is a real milestone for us. And it just, the adoption of electric vehicles is just, it's taken off. And, for as long as Eric and yourself we've been doing this. It's for us. It's great to see because we've been kind of like watching this grow and every year looking to see what the numbers are going to be. So here we are, end of 2025, we're at 1 million. So what does that mean for 2026, 27? Because that S curve, goes up even higher up.
Yeah.
And I see more commercials now on TV for electric vehicles like Subaru. I just saw a brand new one for Subaru.
Mhm.
Um, I just saw Rivian. They just had their AI day yesterday and talking about, the great stuff that they're getting out. We have the new Bolt coming out, which is so reasonable with even more great features on it. So I'm kind of like, my strong belief is we get that EV that is we say 500 kilometers, but we get that EV that's got 600 kilometers. I don't know at any point you can argue range anxiety or the balance isn't there. You
Yeah.
know, I, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like we say, the technology keeps evolving. It almost feels like just a few years ago when we were all excited that there was 100,000 EVs on the road in Canada, and now all of a sudden there's a million,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to see. There's so much negative news out there, and but then you look at this and sit there and say, wow, how far we've come in such a short period of time. And there's so much, we see the technology that's coming on the horizon. We're seeing the stuff that's being worked on today, that there's going to be a lot more affordable and much more capable EVs, even in the next, within the next year, 2 or 3, is
Mhm.
going to be an amazing transformation in the industry. So, yeah, it's amazing to see, and good things are coming, and hopefully the reality outweighs the some of the bad perception that's been kind of going around out there. So
Mhm.
Exactly. We'll move on to shout outs quickly. I've got a quick one I'd like to add in is on our Facebook page, the REVA Facebook page. If you haven't connected with it, please do. We had a post that kind of went viral asking EV owners, how long have you had your
Mhm.
EV and would you ever go back to gas? We reached close to 35,000 people with that post, and we had over 400 comments come in, and over vast majority were positive. I would never go back to gas. And there were some great stories in there. If you haven't read some of the comments, I suggest you go there and see what other people are saying about EVs. And I think it's great. It's from all across the country, not even just our local area. But that being said, any shout outs from you, Ian?
Two quick shout outs. One for the city of Kitchener and the Odd. They've got a electrified Zamboni now.
Ah,
Yes, and they had a contest to name the Zamboni, so that was pretty cool. And then the second shout out is a band I've never seen, but shout out to Triumph. They're coming back next year, and I'm going to see them in Toronto. So it's one of those bands never seen. Okay, I got a chance, go check it out, and they're not just the three piece. They got three other guys, and it should be electrifying. Aha.
very good. Eric, any shout outs?
I know specific shout outs, but just to point out that yeah, a lot of those electric Zambonis are often made in Elmira, actually.
That's
Yeah, that's
right.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
We did a story about that.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for
Well, we
parts.
want to we want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe and be notified every time we add one. That would be really appreciated. It helps us out. And with that, we will get together next time and find out what's happening in electrifying news in REVA. Thanks so much for being with us.